to give you a back and forth about why he thought that was a good shot. But now, when I took him out of the game and talked to him, he's like, Coach, I understand. It was my bad. And so you like to see the fact that he's growing from it. And he's a freshman, but his talent, the talent that he possesses is off the chart.
So 34 points in a game. He grabbed a rebound, 7 of 10 from three-point range, 5 of 11 from the free throw line, had a steal, played 33 minutes. And he was the main man. Denzel, though, posting not a big scoring game, 3 of 12, but he always finds a way to help you win games. 10 rebounds in the game for Denzel.
Yeah, and that needs to be more commonplace for him, especially when we play him at the 4 spot and we're undersized. I mean, he's got to become a better defensive rebounder for us, and that's something that we talked to him about. I mean, he started off the season really doing a great job on the glass, but as the season has went along here, that's subsided. So he needs to make sure that he concentrates on that area more because he can be a defensive rebounder for us. We just need him to be consistent.
You shoot 44%. EIU shoots 52% in the second half, so they made you sweat a little bit there in the second half.
Yeah, I tell you, the end of the first half and the beginning of the second half were really bad for us. I think they went on a 14-0 run to start off the second half there, and I think they ended the first half on a 4-0 run. So we didn't play very well at the beginning there, but the way we guarded Eastern Illinois at the beginning of the game, our activity level was off the charts. And because Eastern Illinois is a unique team because they set most of their screens off the ball. Most teams these days are all ball screens, and if they're going to set in off the ball screen, it's usually a set. Where they've gone to the typical like Bobby Knight motion, and so you don't see that a lot. And so our guys have a hard time understanding how to guard down screens off the ball, flare screens off the ball, because it's not something you see every day. Every game you go out, you see ball screen, ball screen, ball screen, you figure it out. So for our guys, we talked about our activity, especially our activity on the ball, because when you're guarding a team that runs a motion, you've got to be able to take away their vision because you're going to make mistakes guarding that action. And so what you got to do is you got to be a good teammate and get up into the ball and make that guy uncomfortable about seeing the mistakes that we're going to make on the backside because your ball pressure will make a difference.
And one good thing is the head coach of the Red Hawks, Rick Ray, knows all about the Bobby Knight motion offense, coaching under Royce Waltman, who was a Bobby Knight protege. So if anybody knows the Bobby Knight motion offense, you certainly do.
Yeah, and I tell you what, every time I see somebody running it, I get jealous because, I just think it's a beautiful way to play basketball. And I always, sometimes I kick myself because why aren't we running motion? But for me, I just thought the time and effort that you put in trying to implement the motion offense is not worth the dividends because like so many of these guys, the first time they get here on your campus, they've never set a screen off the ball in their life. And so now you're trying to get those guys to get all this stuff and get it in and still try to be a good defensive team. You just run out of time. But to me, it's the best way to play basketball because it's so hard to guard. But the freedom that you have and the beauty and the intricacies of the cuts that you can make in the motion offense is just a great way to play basketball. Like Golden State Warriors, watching those guys play basketball, that motion where they're not running sets and they're just out there playing, it's really a fun thing to watch.
If you look at it like a sport like football and a coach has a fun offense to be involved in, okay, maybe a basketball on grass spread stuff, let's pitch it and catch it and, run it with the running back. And skill guys know that they're going to see the ball a lot. It's a fun offense. It's maybe a huge recruiting tool than maybe if you're just, pound it with a fullback 3 yards in a cloud of dust. What wide receiver wants to go play in an offense like that, right, or quarterback? Is there anything in your offense that is appealing when you are talking to recruits?
Yeah, I think so. What we talk about is the freedom that our guys have, and I think a lot of coaches struggle with that because, most coaches are control freaks. They want to be able to control everything, and when you run set plays and when you run a certain offense, you can control that. And I really don't want that. I want our guys to be able to have the freedom to go out there and make plays because to me, the most difficult thing to scout is when guys are moving and cutting and there's no set pattern to it. So to me, we talk to our guys about that, and it's a dangerous situation because, just talking about like Ladarius Brewer or Daniel Simmons, some of those times those guys don't take the best shots or they don't implement things as far as like what we want them to do. But they're also really hard to guard in our offense because they have that freedom, and there's a lot of randomness to what we do on the offensive end. So what we do is like we just point to the development. You know, one of the biggest tools that we use in our recruiting is about talking about Antonius Cleveland and the way that he improved from his junior year to his senior year, because that's the first time that we had a real off season to work with him. And so the proof is in the pudding. You talk about guys like Denzel Mahoney, Ladarius, what they're doing on the offensive end and how we're scoring. You know, I think that really means a lot. But, you know, to me, I just talk about, hey, I'll let you do anything you're good enough to do. I mean, I don't understand what more did you want. If you're 6'11", you can shoot threes, shoot threes. If you're 5'10" and you're good in the post, you know, go get in the post. Like Jonathan Dalton, Jonathan Dalton dribbles up underneath the basket, comes back out, dribble again. Like, it doesn't matter to me as long as you're not turning the ball over and you're cutting hard and playing hard and being unselfish. That's what we want. And this sounds like a crazy thing, but I tell you, my goal for my players is so when they're like 40 years old, you know, it's always that one guy at the rec or the YMCA that's older than everybody else, but still out there just killing everybody,
right,
because like he just knows how to play basketball. You know, he doesn't have the athleticism anymore. He doesn't have the quickness, but he's still out there just getting buckets because he's learned how to play basketball. And that's what I want my guys to do. I just want them to leave here like being able to go get in the pickup game at any point in time and like get buckets because they know how to play.
Rick Ray wants his guys to be old YMCA guy. That's awesome. All right, let's take a timeout on that one. Redhawks knock off Eastern Illinois 80-73 for their third consecutive victory. Then the Cougars came to the Show Me Center. SIU Edwardsville will talk about the Redhawks and the Cougars, Saturday's win at the Show Me Center. When we come back, it's our final basketball coaches show. Don't forget our next coaches show, March 5th in Cape. It will be the spring edition, and we'll be talking baseball, softball, and all the spring sports. We'll take a timeout from Wings. It's the coaches show on SEMO ESPN.
Pack our walls with tons of big flat screens tuned to the very best sports programming. At Wings, etc., we love big, cooked to tender, crisp perfection wings. And so do our fans, who have voted our wings best in more and more cities across the Midwest. At Wings, etc., we love beer. We love it so much that we have over 40...
Talking play-by-play, it's SEMO ESPN.
It's the Redhawks Coaches Show from Wings, etc. We are in Jackson today. Still time to get over here. Join us for lunch. It's only $12.39, and their daily half-pound lunch specials here at Wings, etc. start at just $6.49. They have a comfortable, laid-back atmosphere. The food and service is outstanding. They have a full menu with their burgers, wraps, quesadillas, subs, entree salads, smoked ribs. Their appetizer lineup includes their ultimate nachos, and you'll notice all of the high-def televisions tuned into the best sports programming. And their food and drink specials throughout the week include 69-cent wings. On Monday, they've got a great kids menu. We've got several kids. I know Mike Rennick, Isaac is here. Jeff Hansa has his children here. They are hitting the menu hard, so a great kids menu as well. And at Wings, they are open 7 days a week and late on the weekends because oftentimes the games run late. And again, today marks the 5-year anniversary of the opening of the Jackson Wings Etc. So they are celebrating happy 5th anniversary to Wings Etc. in Jackson. Joe Hobbs and his lovely wife are sitting in the back of the room next to Bill Goshi. Now, that is a challenge. It's Goshi. I don't know what Goshi's got on the plate there. But, Coach, let's talk about the game against SIU Edwardsville. This is a team that you had already beaten in Edwardsville, but also a team that had just knocked off Jacksonville State, a team that, you know, the most inexact science on the face of the earth is comparing basketball scores. There's no rhyme or reason sometimes, but Jacksonville handled you fairly decisively. You handled SIUE fairly decisively, and then SIUE goes out and beats Jacksonville. It just shows you there is no, science to comparing scores, but a team that shows that it can beat one of the upper echelon teams in the OVC.
Yeah, and if you look at all the scores with SIUE, they're always in the game. It's always a battle. They're trying to turn the corner as far as like their personnel and getting some of those tough wins. But you can't figure out college basketball. It's like Tennessee State is on a 7-game win streak. They're playing at home against EKU, and EKU goes in and gets that win. So you just never figure out college basketball, but that's what makes it fun. That's what makes March Madness fun because no one knows. But in our first game against SIUE, they got 17 points off of our turnovers. We only turned it over 11 times, but they got 17 points off of that. Then they got 17 points on second chance opportunities. So you're talking about 34 points there. So we talked to our guys about like cutting that in half. If we could cut that in half, you pretty much ensure yourself of a chance to win the ball game. So they ended up with 20 points in those two categories. But SIUE is a team that's going to try to force feed the post in there to Jalen Henry. I thought our guys did a really good job of taking away some opportunities from him. We said every time they try to feed the post, we want to make sure that they see two guys, not just one, to sort of discourage that from going in there. Now, our late game execution was really poor. As good as we had late game execution against UT Martin, that's how bad it was against SIU with some of our decision making, especially fouling, guys down the stretch there. That's the worst thing that you can do is send somebody to the free throw line at the end of the game. But, we were lucky enough to pull it out, and the reason why is because we knocked down the free throws down the stretch because our decision making on the offensive end and then the way we executed on the defensive end left a lot to be desired.
Well, you have been pretty good from the free throw line all season. In the second half of the game on Saturday, 22 out of 27. You get to the free throw line 35 times in a game. I mean, that had to please you, no question.
Yeah, and I tell you the big difference for me, though, was that I was disappointed is, one of the things that we want to concentrate on is we want to have a good defense, but we want to guard without fouling. So SIUE shot 0 free throws in the first half, and I'm sure John probably has something to say to the referees about that. Sure. The fact that you shot 0 free throws in the first, but they shot 23 free throws in the second half. And we kept sending Christian Ellis to the free throw line. So, I thought our guys did a poor job of playing without fouling in the second half. But, it's a learning lesson. We're going to clip some things up here, and we'll practice tomorrow morning, and we'll show some of our guys some of the mistakes that we made. And then we'll also show them some of the late game execution from other teams in college basketball and how poorly they did and end up losing the game on some of the same situations that we're in, so we can have some comparison and contrast.
Did you see Bob Huggins after the Kansas game the other night? Kansas at Allen Fieldhouse shot 35 free throws. West Virginia shot 2. He said 40 years of basketball, I don't think we've ever shot 2 free throws. Yeah,
that was a huge disparity. Now I know everybody knows that you're going to have some sort of free throw disparity when you go into the Allen Fieldhouse. Fall Gal in there. But it's not like West Virginia doesn't play physical basketball and try to drive the ball.
Oh, yeah.
So, some teams, if you see that free throw disparity and it's a team that shoots a lot of threes, like say
That's different.
It's different.
Yeah.
Like Belmont. If you play Belmont and Belmont, hey, they shoot a lot of threes, or a team that like lives out on the 3-point line, or Houston Rockets, NBA, you can understand that a little bit.
Sure.
But West Virginia, with the way they attack the rim and try to get the ball into the paint, and they just rely on their toughness, yeah, that's hard to swallow.
You ever cross paths with Bob Huggins? You know Huggins?
yeah. He is a fun guy now. Obviously he kind of lives off some of the junior college guys he recruits, and I remember being out in Coffeyville, Kansas, and some of those areas recruiting the National Junior College Tournament. And I've gotten to know Frank Martin really well from my time at Mississippi State when he was at South Carolina, and Frank Martin's, and Bobby Huggins are really good. So there's been a few times there it's just been us three guys together, and he is a lifer. I mean, this is all he's ever done from the time that he was a kid, was be involved in basketball. So the experiences he has, some of the stories he has to tell, I mean, he's a fun guy to be around.
And he's one of those coaches where his players love him. I mean, to this day, when guys who had played for him 15 years ago, I mean, he is a player's guy. Now he's tough. I mean, I've seen Bob Huggins practices, and I mean, he will get up and chew, but at the same time, his players really love him.
Yeah, and I tell you what, I mean, the thing that's amazing to me about Huggy is that, like, he coaches them tough, but he has some tough dudes now. I mean, he has some guys that, like, hey, you might not – if you're in a dark alley, you want to make sure that you're on their side in that dark alley there, because he's got some tough kids. And, like, the relationships that those guys have with him after you get done playing, to me, that's what it's really about. I mean, we get into this business, and we obviously want to be successful. We want to win. But to me, it's like us being able to connect with guys once they leave. Like, Antonius Cleveland is coming all the way back here on Saturday because he scored 1,000 points, but he did it on the road, and we weren't able to ever to recognize him at home. So he's going to come back here just to receive that 1,000-point ball, because it was important to me. I think it's important that he gets the chance to get the acknowledgement from our fans of what he did, the accomplishment he made. But he didn't have to do that. And it's all about the fact that, in that 2 years, I didn't recruit Antonius Cleveland. I had to win him over. He had to understand that I was for him. But we still talk all the time. My wife talks to him all the time. My wife and my family went down there to see him when he got injured. But he's just a good person. He's coming back here for that. And to me, that means so much more to me, as like the relationships that we have with our guys once they're done.
How's his injury coming? How is he?
Well, he's actually able to travel now. So that was been the problem. He wasn't able to travel because he was going through the rehab. But now he'll be fully cleared in order to travel.
For those who don't know, it's a broken foot.
Yeah, it's a broken foot, and it's really if you look at it, it's down by the foot, but it's actually the leg, so they just call it the foot because it's so low down there. But he was about – I was pretty sure about this because from talking to the people in Dallas and the administration and the organization, they was going to give him a full 1-year contract, and that happened. But I tell you what, those people have been unbelievable to Antonius since that injury occurred. I mean, Mark Cuban called him. Rick Carlisle called him. I mean, I told him he's been lucky because he's probably been in the 2 best organizations in the NBA since this time that he's been in the NBA, with the Golden State Warriors and the Dallas Mavericks, and the way that they treat their players, and the way that they make sure those guys feel good about everything from the facilities, the rehab, just having the personal relationships. He's been really lucky to be involved with those 2 organizations.
So Antonius Cleveland will be here on Saturday to be recognized for his 1,000 points, which they just did with Denzel Mahoney, which was terrific.
Yeah, I tell you what, and I said this before, you're talking about a guy who's a sophomore. Antonius Cleveland, everybody knows how good of a basketball player he is, and he did it his senior year. Antonius Cleveland Denzel Mahoney is doing it in his sophomore year. I've only been involved with 2 guys in my 25 years of coaching that have done it as a sophomore. One is Etwan Moore at Purdue. They ended up scoring over 2,000 points, and he's still playing in the NBA with the New Orleans Pelicans right now. And the other one is David Moss. When I was at Indiana State, he did it, and he's probably making about $3 million a year, playing with the top team in Italy. So it's a really hard accomplishment. So you have that compare and contrast. Antonius Cleveland, who's an NBA player, did it as a senior, and Denzel Mahoney did it as a sophomore.
Well, little over 1,900 points is the all-time record. I mean, if he stays healthy and continues to do what he's doing, he's got a shot at it.
Yeah, I mean, unless we screw him up or he screws himself up, and both of those things are possible now. But I think he has a chance to be up there.
All right, let me ask you this: Isaiah Gable, no longer in a boot. Any chance we see him in the next 2 games?
Yeah, he has a chance. He started to do individual workouts last week. He got cleared to start doing things on the court. He was out of the boot last week, but it was just still all non-impact things. So on the bike, in the pool. So now he's actually going to have a chance here to practice non-contact tomorrow. But then we can see if we can progress him into contact on Wednesday. And if he's not having any problems at all, no setbacks, and I told him the most important thing that he does is that he be honest with us. Our number one rule in the program is tell the truth. So if you're having any sort of discomfort, any pain, let us know, because it's not a tough man competition. We got to make sure that we're looking out for your health. So if all things go well, there's an opportunity he could play on Thursday or Saturday.
Regardless of what happens the rest of the way, you have beaten Eastern Illinois twice. So even if you would not win either of your final 2 games, you would have locked up an OVC tournament berth. I mean, you're 7th now. You could finish higher than that. I know you're not going to the tournament, but, I mean, is that a little bit of a satisfaction considering what they thought in the preseason poll?
Yeah, I think our goal is to make sure next season that we've got the highest possible opportunity to have a great seed next season. Because then it's all about what you do in that OVC tournament. We want to win the OVC regular season, but what's more important is that you get yourself in a great seeding and opportunity to win the OVC tournament. So if we were looking at this now, we would want to be in that top half. We want to be 1 through 4 in one of those situations in one of those places. And we probably felt, if you look back at this season, there were some games that, we should have won. And now what I want to do is, and we'll do this in the offseason, start looking at those games and what it would have done to our seeding. So now it's about the guys understanding the execution, how every possession counts and things like that, so we can move forward. I think we had a chance to be a special team next season if everybody does what they're supposed to do in the offseason. I think we've got to add one more frontline athlete, that can come on there and really rebound the basketball for us and switch ball screens and be a disruptor at the rim.
Musa Dama.
Yeah, both on the offensive end. Christian Cunningham, to me, is a guy that I would like, hey, if we want somebody like a Christian Cunningham where he can play an undersized 5, can be a 4-man, that can switch ball screens and use his athleticism. So we need somebody like that on our front line. I think if we can add that component to our team with the guys that we have sitting out and the point guard that we have coming in, I think that we have a chance to be a special team.
Are you talking to some guys like that?
We're always talking. Recruiting. If you're not recruiting, then you're not winning. So every day is recruiting for me. And to me, what I've gotten into more as I've evolved as a coach is, I watch a ton of film on our guys now, and I've gotten there from the football mode. Football, they do most of their recruiting off of tape. Now they go out and they see guys in person and things like that, but they just don't have the opportunity to get out as much as we do with their condensed season. So to me, I've told my staff all the time, hey, get me film. Like, get tape on them, because I want to get a chance to not just evaluate them in person, but evaluate them on film. And so with all this new synergy and hoop scoop and all these things that you can use now, there's so much film out there on guys. So I spend a ton of time watching those guys on film before I even go watch them play, because sometimes I'll watch them on film and my assistant may feel some way about them, but I'll watch him on film play a few games. I say, I'm not going. I don't think he's what we need. Because the worst thing that can happen is, and my assistants know this, if I go see somebody, especially if I go all the way to Florida or Wyoming or someplace like that, and I don't like the kid, I'm not a very happy camper, in that situation. So let's make sure that you did your due diligence and the kid warrants me coming out there to watch him.
All right, the win over SIU Edwardsville, another game where you jump out to a healthy lead in the basketball game, and they end up coming back. The one number that jumps out at you in this game, other than Ladarius Brewer's 25, I certainly don't want to downplay that, because he averaged 29 points per game this week, but just 3 rebounds per game, which is why the newcomer of the week is Avery Ugba, the guy that transferred from Grambling State that looks like a bodybuilder. He only averaged 17 points, which is 12 points fewer than Ladarius did, but he also averaged almost 10 rebounds per game. That was probably the deciding factor. The sports info people vote on those awards.
I'll take the 8 points over the 8 rebounds.
Yeah, I will too. So with SIUE, speaking of rebounds, it was Daniel Simmons' 11 boards that jump out on the stat sheet in this game, right?
Yeah, I mean, we constantly need either Daniel or Ladarius to be a big rebounder for us. You know, we don't have a chance of being good on the defensive glass if one of those guys are not coming through. With the amount of minutes that they play, it's really important that they go out there and do a good job on the glass for us. And, you know, one thing that you can always, stats help you in some way. So one thing that I'm going to point out to our guys is Donnie Lewis, who's maybe 6 foot, played 9 minutes, and in that 9 minutes he had 4 defensive rebounds. So, I mean, now, like, that's, people don't understand how huge that is. And then more importantly, like, hey, man, like, some of you guys are playing 30 minutes, playing 25 minutes, and he got more defensive rebounds as a 6 foot nothing point guard than you did in that entire time.
Ladarius had 4 in 34 minutes.
You said it, I did.
So another big game for Ladarius, 13 and 11 for Daniel Simmons, and Justin Carpenter, 13 points, 6 rebounds in the game, handed out a couple of assists. What do you see as the off season for Carp? I mean, maybe get a little stronger. What are the things you see?
Yeah, for him, it's to me, it's all about his body and the way he uses his body. His skill level for that position is off the chart. That's not something I'm really concerned about. For him, he's got to become a more explosive athlete, and he's got to become stronger. I don't think he necessarily needs to get bigger. What he needs to do is, like, when he first got here, his body fat was maybe upwards around 24%, which is ridiculous. I mean, he needed to get his body fat down. Now it's down to about 18%, but we need him to get that to 15% or below. So now this is going to help him become a more explosive player. We need to improve his mobility and agility. So he's a guy, to me, that all about his movement and his explosiveness is what he's going to concentrate on here in this offseason. And if he does those things, now he has a chance to play against guys like Ugba, who are explosive basketball players. He needs to be more explosive. He needs to be more mobile, like a Nick Mayo that we're about to go up against. So you want to see that improvements in his body and what he does. And so it's all about how he attacks that. And for him, we tell him it's a 24-hour deal. Like, you go in there and you work out in the weight room for 1 hour, and then you go get some Big Macs and quarter pounders. It doesn't matter. This has got to be a 24-hour deal for him, and we can't put a surveillance camera on him for 24 hours and see what he's doing.
He needs grilled chicken from Wings, etc.
Yeah, he needs salads. He needs to make sure he's drinking water and not drinking. So it's all those things that he's going to have to be married to in order for these things to happen. So, either he wants to become a better basketball player by becoming a better athlete, but it's going to be something that he's going to have to be married to for 24 hours for the whole off season.
One final segment here. We'll talk about Eastern Kentucky. The team, the Red Hawks, will play Thursday. They'll hop on a bus on Wednesday, go 6.5 hours out to play Eastern Kentucky. One final segment with Coach Rick Ray from Wings, etc. in Jackson after this on SEMO ESPN.
But there's only one place
the Show Me Center to be recognized for his 1,000-point club membership when he was a Red Hawk. That'll be Saturday. We hope to have a big crowd over at the Show Me Center. Stay tuned. We've got ESPN radio programming coming up. So long, everybody, from Wings.
Radio Sports Network, 92.9 KLSC Halden, 1220 KGIR, Cape Girardeau, and 1470.